especially via email. And without further ado, Rem, I'm going to turn it over to you, buddy. Rem, bud?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
And
okay, sorry.
You're up.
I don't know why. Thanks, Bob, for that great intro. Hi, everyone. As Bob said, I'm Rem Purushothaman. I'm one of the engineers here at Mimecast. I typically do this particular presentation in about an hour, but I'm going to try and condense it and get you guys through it within half an hour and hopefully leave some time before the session ends to answer any questions. So I'm going to, without further ado, just get into it. Some stats before I get into our actual demonstration itself. Some numbers that we get from the Verizon breach report that's published once a year. Some interesting facts. One that sticks out most to me is 9 out of 10 attacks start with an email. The reason people do that is because it's easy. It's much harder to penetrate a perimeter defense, to hijack a machine from the outside, really to doctor up an email and send that out to somebody. And, chances are within an organization, there's one person that's going to click on something that looks really legitimate, and then an attack begins. Other interesting stat that I heard once I started doing these kind of things is that number that you see here, there's $1 billion spent on paying for ransomware. Office 365 is a big target, and the reason is because there's so many people on it. Another stat that kind of shocked me was that if you took all cyber criminal activity and the amount of money it cost, all that amount of money that's spent on cyber criminal activity and payouts and that sort of stuff is larger than the illicit drug trade globally. So you can all the drug trades you want, what type of drug you're thinking about, and all up together and still smaller than cybercriminal activity. So that kind of puts things in perspective. Alluded to this, right? Why 65? Because there's a lot of different ways to get into Office 365. One of the, there's multiple ways you can send an Office, any of those Office format files. You can send it now. The products within Office 365, but primarily they're targeting through email. There's also services out there that you have to be a super smart hacker or someone that has in-depth knowledge on how to hack. You can actually hire people to build services for you. There's something called ransomware as a service. You can actually pay somebody through Bitcoin. They'll build whatever you want, a miner, or a keystroke logger, any sort of like ransomware, any of that stuff that you want, they'll build it, and you can actually buy it on the dark web really cheap. The money back guarantee in case it doesn't work, which is kind of silly and funny at the same time. When we set this up, one of the reasons we used Office 365 in this particular instance is because, again, going back to that other large number, is that there's a lot of on there, and for that reason, we want to target them. In order to target them, I need to test that it works in Office 365. So about the way we set up this hack is that we actually went and registered a couple of domains. One is an Office 365 tenant. The other one's, I believe, a G Suite. And we're actually testing all our everything that we did. We actually tested it on the Office 365 tenant first to make sure that it actually works and it actually can penetrate through the defenses that are on Office 365. So pretty typical. This is what people do. They'll go register a tenant. It's like $12 a month to get one. You can actually test all your stuff out there before you actually deploy it out and start your attack. A good example of a sample email that we're going to send, pretty similar to this, right? Most of you guys have probably seen this. No longer is it poorly worded, poorly worded email about some guy being stuck in space and needs $1 million to come back out and that sort of stuff. We're actually doing some research. We're trying to figure out, as an attacker, what's going to resonate and be relevant for the victim. So we're actually going to go figure out what's happening, what's relevant for that particular person. We may actually impersonate a CEO, or we may impersonate an HR department, like we're going to do today, and we're going to do some research and figure out what their stub looks like, or what a CEO's email will look like, and we're going to send that email out. So here's an example of what something like that looks like. The particular attack I'm going to use today to demonstrate, so the particular exploit that Microsoft had discovered, had patched. So they actually patched this. But as we know, multiple servers out there have different levels of patching, and all we need is one of those machines or even a mail client to actually not be patched, and we should be able to send that attack through. In this particular instance, we're using an HTA. HTA is a type of patch Microsoft developed. It's a way to combine both HTML and JavaScript or code into a packet that you can then deploy onto a website or whatever else. The thing about HTAs is that on JavaScript or any kind of like web-based attack, the web-based attacks are inside a browser's security context. So browsers are aware of certain things that can happen, and they can block certain things from some coming through. And HTA implicitly runs at a higher privilege than JavaScript and things like that. So that's why we're going to be using an HTA to do it. So a little bit of the background. I'm going to kind of go into the demo, kind of show you what's going on. So there's a couple of machines here. So these are my attacker and victim machines. So you're at the attacker machine now. Here's the machine. It's running Outlook. Go back to the attacker machine. We're going to use something called Kali Linux. And for those who don't know what Kali Linux is a platform you can download. It's free. You can download with some tools on it. And it was for something called ethical hacking. And what ethical hacking is really for organizations to test how vulnerable they are to attacks. So it's a way for you to test your own defenses. But I'm going to use this because an attacker can use the same machine. And the whole purpose of this demonstration is to show you guys how easy it is to generate an attack and take over a machine. So I'm going to use Kali Linux. There's going to be two tools that we're going to use. The built into Kali Linux is something called Metasploit. And what Metasploit is a database of known exploits, and it's constantly updated, just like virus scan engines are updated with, the latest and greatest protection for particular viruses. Metasploit's updated constantly with the latest and greatest exploits that are out there that you can deploy testing your devices. Now, line driven, you kind of have to see this is Linux, so you kind of have to be a little savvy with Linux. You have to learn how to, know how to do things on the command line. So to make things even easier, there's a tool. It's called Entourage. And what Entourage is a GUI on top of Metasploit. So rather than you having to learn Linux and having to figure out how to do things on a command line, the nice, easy click and to do this thing. So if I take filter out, you'll see there's a lot of different things available in Armitage, which sits up in Metasploit. So it's basically just a GUI on all the exploits that's available in Metasploit. A bunch of different types of loads here you can use. There's stuff for browsers, there's stuff for Linux, there's Android. So you can see it's pretty wide of exploits that are available on a variety of different platforms. I'm going to use a particular exploit to the one I showed you earlier, which is an Office-based exploit. And a couple of things. I'm going to double click on this. There's a few things I need to do as an attacker. I'm going to address where my payload. And I'm going to copy this instead of typing it. Things you guys want to keep in mind. Maybe I kind of a little bit. As you know, we have two fictitious companies we're going to use in this demo. The real company is called Intertruck.com. What we've done as an attacker is do something called typo squatting, which is we actually created another. So you can see this is an L. It's Literode instead of Intertrode. But when I paste it into a browser or into an email, it looks like an I, uppercase I. So this attack is called a typo squatting. It's something that looks very similar to your domain, so it fools users into thinking it's real, but in reality it's not. So we're going to mimic Intertrode.com's HR sending out a pay stub. So that's kind of why we did the Linitrode. The reason I put it into here so that you guys can see it's an actual L instead of an I. But you'll see as the email goes out, it looks like an I. So I'm going to copy this because I'm spoof-prone. Come back into my attacker machine. I'm going to create a payload that's going to come from this fictitious, not really, this spoofed address. And the attack go over port 80. And the reason I do it over port 80 is because nobody blocks port 80. You need port 80 for the web to work on any organization. So there's no one that's going to block port 80. So launch, pretty easy. And a few happen here. That paper through my email. It's sitting on this machine on a web server that's running on this machine, and here it is. That's the payload. And under the scenes, that payload is a Word file with that HTA in it. The HTA is that exploit with the code you use to attack the victim. So it's in here to download. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to craft an email that looks like it's coming from the Intertrode HR department. You know, everybody's kind of seen these kind of emails before. It's, you know, hey, pay stubs available, click here so you can see what's going on. So we're kind of making that whole pay stub kind of thing and send this to a couple of people at the original company that's supposed to receive it. If you look at these links here, you'll notice it looks I. The covers, if I look at this link, if this link, this message, I'm going to set as a new message. Drafted it up as a draft. Link here, you'll note under the covers, it's actually going to, oh, come on. No, demos. It's actually to what I've actually set up as a typo squatting, right? If I look at the link, it's said coming from pay statements at intertrode.com, but it's actually going to that payload I put up on this machine here that's waiting to be downloaded, which is going to linitrode.net, and it's this HTA at the bottom of it. That's the end of it. That's going to get downloaded to the victim machine. So I'm going to this email. I'm going to send it to 2 users, and the reason I want to send it to 2 users is just kind of demonstrate what it looks like with a standard level of email protection that you get from a variety of different mailers. And the other one is actually going to a Mimecast protected mailbox, just to kind of see, compare and contrast what happens with something that's protected by Mimecast versus something that's not. I'm going to send this same email to users. One that's a standard 365 user, the other one is a Mimecast user. And it's going to take seconds to get there. So a minute, I'm going to go to the victim machines now. In seconds, there's the emails that came in. So this is the unprotected user. You can see it's intertrode.net. You'll know they have received email, and this looks like a pretty standard email that everybody gets, right? Here's your pay stub. Click here to download. So as I say, okay, great, I'm going to click there. Hover over this. It looks like it's coming from Intertrode. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but it looks like a capital I as opposed to a lowercase L. So a lot of users have been trained to say, you know, hover over it. Maybe that is coming from a legitimate source. Clearly, it looks like it is to me, so I'm going to click on this. What hovers is that, okay, I want to open up this thing and see my pay stub. None, right? So as a user, I'm wondering what's going on. I'm back and click on this link a few more times to figure out why I'm not getting my pay stub. And at some point, I give up, and I'm going to maybe email my HR administrator and say, you know, I tried to click on this thing, I can't get my pay stub. What's going on? On to something else. I may have to do some work. So while I'm with that HR administrator get back to me, I'm going to go into my network drive, and I'm going to start doing some work. In the meantime, if I go back to the attacker machine, that machine has now showed up in my triage for me. I have complete access to that machine. I can do things here from Arbitrage. Again, I don't have to be proficient with Linux to do any of this. It's all mouse menu driven. Options here, right? I can browse for files. I can processes that are running. I can log keystrokes. I can take a screenshot. I can even take a webcam shot if there's a webcam available. I'm going to screenshot just to kind of show you guys what's going on there. On the machine, I started working on my, I continue to go working on it. I'll notice that on the screenshot, I see that the person is on the Z drive, and there's something that looks like a financial plan. So, what's all about? So what I can then do is I can go in here, and I can browse files. It's going back to the victim machine, reading files on that machine. What likely takes me to is the Windows System 32 directory, which we all know is a dangerous place to have access to a machine to do certain things. Since I'm interested in that Z drive, I'm going to go to it first. And I have financial plans available, so I'm going to download this thing. Okay, downloading, if I go and look at what my downloads look like, there's that file. I can now see what that file is about. Now that's downloaded to my attacker machine. And it actually has the address of that machine that I'm working with. Open this up, and it's a PDF, and as you can see, I just loaded a financial report for an important client that's on this machine. It's very dangerous access to file systems, and you want to do with it. A couple of other things. You notice keystroke logger here. So I can have keystroke logger. I warn you that sometimes this doesn't work in my demo environment, but let's hope that they're on my side. So I'm just going to click launch. Wait a minute to start working. And it'll start logging stuff here. So I'm just going to wait. Start another, see what happens. It's working, but had it worked, I'll show you what it kind of looks like a hack perspective. I would somewhere out this thing for that to come up. I'll give it a few more minutes to run. But let's go back to the the victim machine, see what it looks like from a Mimecast perspective. So that email that I sent to the with the regular standard inbox, they were able to take over the machine and do some things with it. I'll go to that same person, another user, and they didn't get the email. What they got instead was a warning message from us saying, "Hey, this looks like it's an impersonation attack. We actually blocked the email from happening and from coming into your inbox, and we have blocked it. You have to contact your administrator because it's been placed on an admin queue to be released." So the user never got the email to begin with, to not even click on that malicious email. So I'm going to call up the administrator, and so the HR administrator is going to call up the Mimecast admin and say, "Hey, listen, he's not able to get his pay stub. What's going on? Can you figure out what's going on and send the pay stub to the user?" So if Mimecast admin, I'm going to go into the admin console. I'm going to log in. I make sure authenticated here, so give me a second. Still no. So admin console, it's a bit slow here because my VMs are kind of slow. maybe wait. Example of what that email looks like. So the email, this is like from the admin console. They can go in and say, okay, I'm going to release this email to the person, even though it looks kind of shady. I'm going to leave it up to that person to kind of determine whether that email is bad. We'll notice that they get the same email, but we've actually put some messaging around it saying this looks to be fraudulent. Senders who not appear to be careful. Don't click on anything unless you're absolutely sure, right? Most people are going to look at that. More than likely, they'll say, you know, I still want my pay stub. How do I get to it? I'm going to click that same link. Now, this is the same link that the other user clicked on as well. We're going to as well. Rather than allowing the user to download that HTA file, we'll throw the thing up. It's called the Mimecast User Awareness page. What that allows the user to do is determine whether it's actually coming from a good place or not. You'll notice that it's coming from something that looks like this. That's not a normal domain that you would actually see, you know, and some other additional information about it. Now, as a user that really wants to get their pay stub, you know what? Despite everything, all the going off and everything else, I'm still going to click on this thing from downloading that payload down to the computer. So that's kind of the difference between how Mimecast protects users versus how some other vendors stop things from happening, because we have two levels of protection going on here. One is that we detect an impersonation, and then because we detect impersonation and stopped the email from flowing, it went into administrator hold queue. The administrator was asked to release the hold. They did. You know, so that email flowed through back into the user's inbox. But then Ron found out there's a malicious piece of file, this file at the end of that URL. So we basically did what we normally do when we see files. We sandbox it, we inspect the code behind it, we determine it was this, and we stop them from going any further. That section works. So just want to just a few more slides. I know we only have a few minutes left. So just kind of high level what happened from an architecture perspective on what's going on. The attackers here, that Kali Linux machine using all the tools that we talked about. And this mail was sent to two different mail servers. One is an Office 365 server. It went through all the same checks that most things go through, right? Authentication, anti-spoofing, so using DMARC or SPF. It did sort of reputation checks. Well, Linetrode.com and Linetrode, those are not real names that anyone knows about. So it's probably be on one of those gray list kind of reputation things. It's neither good nor bad. And therefore, we actually then deliver that message to the recipient with that malicious payload in it. Other side, on Mimecast, we're exactly doing all the things that the other guys are doing, except a little bit more. We're doing a deep URL inspection. That's what kind of stopped that file from being downloaded, is that just because the file at the end of a URL doesn't mean we can just let it through. We're actually going to let it. We're going to look at the page it's sitting on, see if there's anything malicious behind it, and if there's, we're going to download it. We're going to sandbox it. We're going to determine whether it's good or bad, and then stop people from getting through. Some quick stats. I'm going to jump through all these, but you know, so some can you stop this thing from happening? Some pretty straightforward. Multi-factor authentication. You know, so if using 2FA, at least start there. That's very important. That stops a lot of stuff from happening in the first place. You know, 2, use certain tools that are already available from most mail platforms, which is DNS authentication. Make sure that stuff's coming from the email that's being sent is actually coming from someplace that it should be coming from, not from somewhere else that's spoofing it. You know, it's typo squatting. You know, that's what we talked about today, right? So Linetrode with an L looks like an Innitrode. It's make sure that the Protect Suite is able to detect that and stop it from happening. You know, and it's not just because if it's from an attachment, but also if it's at the end of a URL, because not all files are coming through attachments. You know, things that check URLs on every single click. And the reason because this is web pages bad. I have a page that's at mimecast.com/something, right? Like executive bios, for instance. That page is good today. If you only scan it as it's coming in, there's no checks on it once it's scanned. Well, we want to make sure we check on it every single time because pages go bad. Somebody could hijack a page. Inspect into emails as if it was coming externally. So, one of the biggest dangers is not just external attacks, but someone unbeknownst to them or someone that's actually a bad actor within your organization doing something bad. You want to make sure that you treat internal emails similar to you treat external emails, because that's also an attack vector for a lot of people. Again, inspect it for sensitive content. So you could have somebody sending out sensitive information, Social Security numbers, that sort of stuff. Maybe that's inspected in turn as well, just not for codes, but also for content within it. Large file send. What this really means is that a lot of times mail servers have a limit on the size of files they can send. So get around that by putting it on there's like Dropbox or things like that. So actually, a way for an attacker to get in, because they could actually get into that Dropbox share folder, put something malicious in, people wouldn't know. So maybe there's a way for people to send files securely without actually using sharing services. Make sure your email security data is sent to your SIEM. We do that all the time. We work with Splunk and LogRhythm. 9 out of 10 attacks happen through email. There's a vast amount of secure intel that's in your mail platform that you can use to share with your SIEM. And user awareness, it's not an annual thing. Just because you send somebody to training once a year or twice a year doesn't mean they're gonna stop from being on bad links. So make sure you make them aware, sort of like that Mimecast user awareness program. I think I'm out of time, so I don't know if we have any guys. Do we have time for questions?
Any questions come through chat?
There, one of them is this showing an example of an Office 365 platform? If so, can we also see this on Google platform?
Yeah, same type of attack can happen on any platform, really. What you need that multi-level of protection to stop that. So just because somebody has, for instance, impersonation attack, right? So they could have stopped the impersonation. ATP has impersonation attack protection, but it's a one-size-fits-all. So you can really tweak it to certain things. So he gets past that. So just an example, the person called the admin released the email. So make sure you have multiple levels of doing this. This can happen in Google, this can happen in Microsoft, this can happen in any other mail platform that doesn't have those multiple levels of protection afforded into it.
Rem, I'll tell you what, a lot of times we do these and we're looking at just maybe a PowerPoint slide, very interactive, very informative. We really appreciate it. And to our partners out there, we're always looking for. I know we're always looking for low-hanging fruit. What services are somewhat easy to pitch and easy to identify needs within our customers, and this is it. You think about Office 365. If you think about Exchange, whether it be on a RapidScale platform or another competitive environment, or for that matter, an Exchange environment within the four walls of your customer's corporate environment, Nest is a great play. And it becomes a really great play if you think about the different bundles they offer, because once you start combining them, the value proposition only increases, because all of a sudden now you're looking at a customer replacing maybe their Trend Micro or Symantec anti-spam, antivirus type security on the surface, plus some of the deeper forensic type stuff to stop the type of threats that we're reviewing here today with them. In addition, perhaps your customer is frustrated with managing maybe PST files, or for that matter, looking at storage challenges around how they're going to keep mail, and they may have compliancy requirements around long-term archival, and then combine that with really mitigating risk in the event that there's downtime and leveraging Mimecast for business continuance. If you think about those needs needs, and certainly can be sold kind of extrapolated. But if you think about the more of the type solution, the value proposition, especially at the price points that we're talking about, really slick. These deals can get sizable, and they're easy to sell. Mimecast is great on the pre-sale side. Rem and team really help us out, and really appreciate the partnership, Rem. And with that, we're gonna sign off. Guys, see you next month.